Welcome to all the learners to YuktMind's initiative of 10 minutes and newspaper done. Today is 3rd May and we are ready with our crisp gist of the newspaper. YuktMind team is trying to provide quality content in less time and a genuine aspirant will understand the value of it. This is why we refrain from all kinds of verbosity and focus on improving our courses. So let's begin with the today's analysis. We have selected 7 items from today's newspaper. First 4 are informative in nature and is meant for prelims or as examples in mains. And article 5th to 7th are more analytical, meant for mains. You can download the PDF from our Telegram channel or website. First news, Wayanad tops Swachh Bharat's ODF Plus rankings. Kerala's Wayanad has become the first district in the country to be declared ODF Plus. Wayanad district has come first in the ODF Plus rankings in Swachh Bharat mission in 3-star category, followed by Mancherial district in Maharashtra and Anupur district in Madhya Pradesh. You all should know the meaning of ODF Plus and ODF Plus Plus, and if not, you can read in the PDF provided. Second news, Centre plans panel to find alternative to death by hanging. The government apprised the Supreme Court on 2nd May that it is considering the formation of a committee to examine the need for a painless and more dignified alternative to death by a hanging. The court was hearing a petition filed by Advocate Rishi Malhotra, who is challenging the constitutionality of death of hanging. He is asking for an evolved, human, quick and decent alternative and called hanging as cruel and barbarous way of executing a prisoner. There are several ways of death given by the courts. Some are beheading, hanging, lethal injection, shooting and electrocution as given by Amnesty International reports. Third news, in Sri Lanka, Indian Air Force Chief donated AN-32 transport aircraft propellers to Commander Sri Lanka Air Force at Katunaike Air Base. Mr. Chaudhary interacted with students at the National Defence College where he presented books worth 1 crore Lankan rupees as a gift from Government of India. Also yesterday, Defence Minister handed over a fast patrol vessel and a landing craft assault ship to the Maldives National Defence Forces. He said India has been the first responder in a large number of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief requirements in the Indian Ocean region. Fourth news, Karnataka ranked the most innovative state in manufacturing. A survey on the degree of innovation among manufacturing firms found that Karnataka is the most innovative state, followed by Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Telangana and Tamil Nadu in overall category. Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu had the highest share of innovative firms. Odisha, Bihar and Jharkhand reporting the lowest share of such firms. The most frequent barriers to innovation were the lack of internal funds, high innovation costs, and lack of financing from external resources. The findings are part of the National Manufacturing Innovation Survey 2021-22, a joint study by Department of Science and Technology and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization to evaluate the innovation performance of manufacturing firms in India. Fifth news, outlawing India's tech tariff. On the complaints brought by the European Union, Japan and Taiwan, 3 WTO dispute settlement panels have found India's tariffs on certain information and communication technology products such as mobile phones inconsistent with India's WTO obligation. Specifically, the panels concluded that India has violated Article 2 of GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, because India's tariffs breach its goods schedule. Panels have recommended that India reduce its tariff rates and make them compatible with its goods schedule. Since one of the central objectives of the WTO is to boost transparency and predictability in the multilateral trading order, WTO member countries are under a legal obligation not to impose tariff rates in excess of their bound or maximum tariff rates committed in their goods schedule. Now, what is the goods schedule? It is based on the World Customs Organization classification system, which catalogs traded products with specific names and numbers. This is also known as Harmonized System of Nomenclature, known as HSN. Due to the continuous emergence of new products owing to technological innovations, the HSN system is regularly updated to reflect new products, also known as transposition. To justify higher tariff rates, India argued that its binding tariff commitments on ICT products are contained in the WTO Ministerial Declaration on Trade in Information Technology Products, ITA agreement hereafter, which India joined in 1997. The IT agreement adopted in 1996 is an arrangement through which select WTO member countries agreed to eliminate duties on IT products. Accordingly, the panels held that India's goods schedules, not the ITA, is the source of India's legal obligations on tariffs, including on products covered by the ITA. The panel also rejected India's contention that its commitments under the ITA are static. India argued that its commitment under the goods schedule do not include products that emerged due to technological innovations after the conclusion of the ITA. The panels also denied India's argument based on Article 48 of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties, which declares that an error in a treaty would invalidate a state's consent. India argued that an error was committed during the transposition of its goods schedule from the HSN 2002 edition to the HSN 2007 edition. Finally, the panels held that India failed to show that this assumption formed a necessary basis for India's consent for the goods schedule. In any case, the panel said India was put on notice that its commitment under the goods schedule may have expanded during the transposition process. Now, India's appeal against the panels may go into the void because India, relying on Article 17 of the WTO's dispute settlement understanding, is likely to appeal against the panel ruling. However, the appellate body that hears appeals has ceased to exist since 2019 because the USA has been blocking the appointment of the body's members. Alternate mechanism was given by few countries, like relying on Article 25 of the dispute settlement understandings. The EU and a few other WTO member countries have created an alternative, the multi-party interim appeal arbitration arrangement MPIA. However, India is not a party to this and will not use it to resolve the dispute. Can the EU impose trade sanctions on India in case India does not comply with the rulings? Under the WTO law, the EU cannot do so. The WTO law does not allow countries to impose trade sanctions when an appeal is pending. But the EU has developed a legal mechanism according to which if a country files an appeal against a panel under Article 17 of the DSU into the void and refuses to use the MPIA to resolve the dispute, the EU can unilaterally impose trade sanctions against the losing country. The EU's objective is to use the stick of trade sanctions to push countries like India to join the MPIA. But such countermeasures will be inconsistent with the WTO law. Individual countries like India can't be held responsible for a missing appellate body. Sixth news is about Blinkit workers protesting. There was a strike by Zomato-owned Blinkit delivery agents. The strikes began when Blinkit rolled out its new payout structure for delivery executives, under which the minimum payout per delivery was slashed to 15,000 from 25,000. Now, who is a gig worker? Gig workers refer to workers outside of the traditional employer-employee relationship. There are two groups of gig workers, platform workers and non-platform workers. When gig workers use online algorithmic matching platforms or apps to connect with customers, they are called platform workers. Now, whether gig workers should be categorized as employees or as independent contractors has been a heated debate. In India, employees are entitled to a host of benefits such as Minimum Wages Act 1948, Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952 and the Payment of Bonus Act 1956. Contract laborers are governed under Contract Labor Act 1970. Given the unique nature of gig workers, they display characteristics of both employees and independent contractors and thus do not squarely fit into any rigid categorization. As a result, they have limited recognition under current employment laws. The Ministry of Labour and Employment introduced the Code on Social Security 2020, which brings gig workers within the ambit of labour laws for the first time. Under Section 2, Clause 35 of the Code, a gig worker is defined as a person who performs work or participates in a work arrangement and earns from such activities outside of a traditional employer-employee relationship. The code also defines platform work, which uses an online platform to access other organizations or individuals to solve specific problems. Although the code recognizes gig workers, it distinguishes between such workers and employees. The proposed code stipulates that central and state government must frame suitable social security schemes for gig workers on matters relating to health and maternity benefits, provident funds and accident benefits. The code also mandates the compulsory registration of all gig workers and platform workers to avail of the benefits under these schemes. The concern is that out of the 4 new labor codes proposed, gig workers find reference only in the Code on Social Security. Hence, they remain excluded from vital benefits and protections offered by other codes. They also cannot create legally recognized unions. Considering the non-traditional nature of their work, gig workers also do not have the right to collective bargaining, which is the fundamental principle of modern labor law. A 2022 report by Fair Work India, an international research project, highlighted the deplorable working condition of the employees of digital labor platforms. Despite receiving the assent of the president, the labor codes are still awaiting implementation. Center has said that this is due to the delay in framing of rules by the states. Court's intervention took place on September 2021. The Indian Federation of App-Based Transport Workers filed a public interest litigation on behalf of gig workers before Supreme Court and demanded that gig workers or platform workers be declared as unorganized workers. Although the Supreme Court sought the center's response to this petition, the center has not yet responded. Seventh news, de-dollarization, the race to attain the status of global reserve currency. De-dollarization refers to the replacement of the US dollar by other currencies as the global reserve currency. What is the global reserve currency? A reserve currency refers to any currency that is widely used in cross-border transactions and is commonly held as reserves by central banks. Countries have tried to dethrone the dollar as the global reserve currency for many decades now for various reasons. The US imposed several sanctions that restricted the use of the US dollar to purchase oil and other goods from Russia during the Ukraine-Russia war, which is seen as an attempt to weaponize the dollars. Since international transactions carried out in the US dollar are cleared by American banks, this gives the US government significant power to oversee and control these transactions. Currently, the Chinese yuan is seen as the primary alternative to US dollar owing to China's rising economic power. It should be noted that it is the currencies of economic superpowers that have usually ended up being used as the global reserve currency, and as the economic clout of these countries waned, their currencies faced a similar downfall. Example, British pound and French franc. Critics of the US dollar believe that the global reserve currency status gives it unfair privileges over other countries, thus justifying de-dollarization attempts. What are the advantages of being a reserve currency? When a country's fiat currency enjoys reserve currency status, it gives the country the power to purchase goods and other assets from the rest of the world by simply creating fresh currency out of thin air. Such irresponsible expansion of the money supply can cause the debasement of the currency and eventually threaten its status as a reserve currency. The expansionary monetary policy adopted by the US Federal Reserve are also few concerns. The US central bank usually increases the supply of dollars through various means to tackle economic downturns and to fund the government's expenditures. But other countries have also been expanding their respective money supplies to address their domestic economic problems. As long as the US does not debase its currency at a faster pace than other countries, the dollar may manage to hold its value against other currencies. Economists argue that the US dollar is not forced on anyone to be accepted as medium of exchange for cross-border transactions, but because people actually prefer to use the American currency over others for various economic reasons. An interesting example is a recent attempt by India and Russia to carry out trade between the two countries in Indian rupees. Rather than US dollars, it has hit a roadblock because the value of India's imports from Russia far outweighs its exports to the country. This left Russia with excess rupees in hands, which it was unwilling to spend on Indian goods or assets, and led to Russian demands for the settlement of bilateral trade back to US dollars. The high level of trust that global investors have in the US financial markets, perhaps owing to the rule of law in the US, is considered to be a major reason why investors prefer to invest in US assets. China is trying to make the yuan a reserve currency. However, restrictions placed by the Chinese government on foreign access to China's financial markets and doubts over rule of law have affected global demand for the yuan. Thank you for watching. Keep visiting our website, Telegram, Instagram, and Twitter handles.